So the mod only collects this inventory ID here, drops it in this mod section to check if it's blank. If it's blank, exit. That's all this does.
Mm-hmm.
Now the vehicle update input is the one that calls the vehicle update, and it still has the inventory ID. But if the mod had found out that it was blank, it wouldn't call this update vehicle at all. This update vehicle would not get run. Are you getting understanding of that?
I think so.
So if the mod basically said that, okay, there's nothing in this inventory ID, it would have exit and go back to the page.
Yeah.
All right. So now that the mod says, checks and sees if it's blank or not, and it realizes, oh, it's not blank, we can basically do our work, then this case would basically be valid. It would just run, because the mod wouldn't basically exit out back to the update or the delete page. So basically that's how the data is flowing. And once you run that update vehicle, it will you collect everything like we've been doing so far. We check if it's blank like we've been doing so far. We drop in our update result, and we do our if statement. This wouldn't work for me when I didn't have this equal one, because it for some reason it wouldn't see the if statement at all. I tried everything and it wouldn't show it until I put the equals to 1, because it just wouldn't do anything. All right, so let's look at how it flows in terms of this thing. All right, so let's log out and go bam. All right, so we're going to go to our update for vehicle management area. All right, so let's look at a classical car, and we go, hey, Lucky, be quiet, be quiet. All right, so now we are at our update here.
Right. So I do understand all of the update vehicle.
Yeah, but I'm just basically going through the entire thing so you see how it works.
Okay.
All right, so basically we're at the vehicle update area right here, and this vehicle updates page. If we should do a mod, it would go to the vehicle update page. That would be the last page it goes to if the mod does not work, basically. All right. So we come here and we decide we're going to actually try to submit something, right? We're going to submit anything basically. And when we go bam, basically nothing was submitted. And that's basically this section here, this if statement in the update vehicle, where it says error. The error car and error car X was not updated. So we get to this if statement. Now, if this inventory ID was blank, wherein it couldn't find the error car at all, that code would not be run at all. That's what that mod does. If it can't find an inventory ID, it just wouldn't run this code. It would just exit and go back, right? Now, if I basically change something and I update, it basically says, congratulations, the error car, international error car was successfully updated. And that's basically what this code here does, this if statement. But none of this if statement would basically work if that mod didn't work.
Right.
Now, I think without the mod, you could literally just bypass all of that and it will still work. I just feel like the mod is there just to do a check for the array if it's empty or not.
Okay.
Because you try to submit and it works, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you don't use the mod, it will work. It's just a matter of what if it didn't have anything? it would still work, right? So basically, the mod is just saying, you know, if you don't have any data, don't run the code, and that's basically all I see it doing. That's basically what I understand from it.
Okay.
Now, for your other section of it, where this is what I was talking about. It comes up here because it's basically a server message. So I'm just wondering if there's a way to get rid of this where it doesn't show every time.
I did.
Right?
There is.
I did learn that last night.
Okay.
Yeah, but my
right
brain
after,
is. Mm-hmm.
It's really easy. Right after you call that message, you just unset it. Like
Okay.
the next line, you just unset it.
Just
So, yeah,
unset it.
So
All
then
right.
it's unset is the command is the what you
Yeah.
use.
And
yeah,
you
I
can-
learned that one from Cole because I was the same way. I was like, I have this message carrying over to another screen that I don't want.
Yeah.
So I was putting in a blank message, like, and so it would clear it out. And he's like, well, that works, but you could just use unset. I was like, oh, okay. I don't
So
know
where
what that is.
where you put the unset, like right below here?
I don't know on
You
here.
do
For
it
me,
in
I was
your
using it
view.
on a case.
You do it in your view.
In the view. Oh, okay. I get it. All right. So basically, in the update account information, now this one is a little bit the same thing. Let's see if we can close this. What we need, the accounts controller.
Yes.
Why my eyes?
All the way
Where's
up
my
top.
accounts? Yeah, here. We need the accounts controller, the accounts model, and the client update. Yeah, there we go. And basically, we are doing basically the same thing for this one. So we're basically checking for that. Where is it? We're basically checking for that. Where's that mod? Didn't open. Here. All right, so I did a check for basically the password and the email, just to check if both are there. Let me see if I can find where I did that. Here, I basically just look for the existing client by using the email in order to see if that client exists. And basically, that's how, once that information from here is passed over to the update client, that's how I basically find out when it gets here. That's how I basically find out if that client exists here. Now, if the client exists, we basically check everything else. So we add the message for the client first name that is successfully updated, or tell them that something went wrong. Now, this is where you have to basically get creative and start figuring out how to write this section, because it's very annoying. It took me the whole of yesterday and today to figure it out.
Oh, geez.
Yikes. Well, that's
Right, but it's yeah, but it's doing the same thing. It's just a matter of how do you implement them. So what I did was to do the same exact thing that I did for everything else. First thing we do, we put in our variables, right? Now for the client ID, I got my session client info, and then to check for the missing data, I basically start checking if they're empty. And then I decided to check if the client email exists. Now, if the client email exists, I wanted to check if the client actually exists, right? I still went to look for the client. And that's basically when I said, all right, the session, the user is actually logged in. Then I basically set the client info back into my session. And I basically send out a message that says that the person is successfully updated. And that's basically all it does. The data is just flowing from here. And it gets jumped into this update client result. So update client, you pass it to the update client. It goes into your update client result. You check your update client result. And basically, once you check it, you basically just say if the person is logged in or not. And that's basically what you were doing on the other item as well. It's basically the same thing. It's just the implementation is a little bit different in terms of what you're calling, what functions you're using. And let me look at the update client here.
Oh, it's right there. Oh, you passed it.
Yeah, right here.
Oh, never mind. What's your one below?
It's basically the same exact function as the insert client. The difference is this update statement. So let's see. Register client. All right. So basically this insert into, I just copied this entire thing and put it here.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's basically the same exact thing. It's just that we're using an update client, set all these things to these binding variables here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then once we bind the variables, we basically check if the rows are changed. If the rows is changed, we return 1. If they are not changed, we return 0. Now that would go into this update client result. So if update client result is actually 1, then it would say client info get existing client. And that's basically this one that I call.
Can you go back to that last one?
Okay, here.
Yeah. You have it checking. Is that?
Go again?
So right there where it says session logged in equals true, It says check if user logged in. Is that checking or is that setting it to logged in?
It's basically,
because it's not using like an if set,
Yeah.
type of thing. It's
so basically I just said session logged in equals true, right?
okay.
But as I said, this is how you implement it. You don't necessarily even have to put that. So you could basically just check if put an if statement there to check if it's logged in. All right. It's just a matter of I think I just dropped it there just to make sure that it's true, so that whenever I use this code up here, let's see. Let's go to my header. Based on how my header is set up, let me show you. All right, so basically my header checks if you're logged in. All right?
Right.
And if you're logged in, it will show you the login button. And if you're not logged in, it will just show you my accounts. So based on how mine is set, I basically just ensure that it's set to true. So you don't necessarily have to do it this way, right? So basically, I'm just kind of showing you how the data is flowing, so it's easier for you to go through it.
So right there, you also had in there a link, another one besides showing log out. It also looked like it was also going to.
Oh, here?
Yeah. Is that something new we do? I've only made it through the first activity.
Oh no, this is basically just me setting it up the way that I understood it, right? Because they asked for us to show a login, a logout button, and
Right.
I
So we have a
basically
log
just
out, but then on yours, you have right beside it, not just the name, but yours is a link that you click to that takes you to this admin page. Like it
yeah,
tells you admin action, which loads like a,
yeah.
um,
Whenever I click this name,
yeah.
it would always load the admin view.
Yes. So is that something that it asks us to do, or you just decided to do that?
I just kind of did it.
Well, because it was bothering me that I didn't. I'm like, if you once you leave this page,
Yeah,
there's not a way to get back to it unless you
that's basically what was
type
bothering
in
me.
a URL. And I'm like, well, you need. Okay. I was just.
Yeah, that's exactly what was bothering me because I was like, I can't get back to this page unless I type it in the URL. So I just basically dropped it there,
Okay.
and it makes sense. So
Oh, sure. Yeah.
yeah, so basically it just goes there, right?
Yeah.
All right, so basically let's go back to. All right, so that basically explains why I basically put this to true, just for that
Okay.
header thing, right? That's the only reason I put that there.
Gotcha.
All right, so this is where the get existing client. Now this is where this client info gets initialized. All right, so get existing client, right? Now you could probably just say select all from clients, but I'm a stickler for putting everything that I can see. I kind of like seeing how the data flows, right? I just don't like saying, I just want to know what I'm getting so I can basically, right?
That makes sense.
Yeah. So basically this is where you select everything from the client's table. And then once you select everything, you put it in client info. And that's now how your client info is getting that basically that data that you're using, right? So that session info for client first name, that's because you put it into the session variable up here, right here. So this client info will go into your session variable, and then you will be able to pull that session variable within your client update. And that's basically when I click update account information, I can call the SuperX immediately. That clearer to you?
I think so.
Because I couldn't call this unless it was within the session, basically. So all I did was to take that client info, assign it to the session, and then call the session variables.
Can we look at how it goes through your password? Like,
Huh?
so when you click update password in that case,
All right, so
open
basically,
the password and then you check the password. You have to
yeah,
just
that one.
hash.
Yeah, that one was a pain in the rear end.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't figure out how to basically change, like basically unhash it, basically. And I literally had to like do some internet research to get that.
Yeah.
And let's see.
So you don't have to. You just have to
Here.
check that the hash is the same.
Yeah.
You just
So
check
this is where you basically check here in this section here. So that's basically when you check for the hash in here.
Okay.
So once you've checked for the hash, you just basically return it to client info again.
Okay.
And that's basically the same. That's basically what the update password is doing. And you basically do the same thing that you did, where you check if the client info is empty. And then I did this again to make sure that my header picks it up at all times. And then I assign client info to the session again. So basically this update password is doing the same thing as this update client. right? But it's the same steps going down. It's just a matter of, based on your implementation,
Yeah.
you want to set it up that it works with how you implement your things. That's why when the teacher basically puts a code, he said it's like, it may look like this. Because you're not necessarily going to be doing it the exact same way, right? All right, so basically, I hope that helped. Just keep doing the same thing, right? You get your variables, check if they're blank, check if they exist, right? And if they do exist, then you do your changes.
In the intro video, I was like, oh, okay, doesn't sound too bad, but there's still a lot of work to do.
Yeah, it's very involved. That's what I can tell you. It's very involved because I was working from 6 in the morning yesterday till 10 in the night last night, and I was supposed to come in the meeting to ask some questions, but I literally fell asleep. I was just so tired. When I got up, the meeting was done. Right? So I literally just shut down the computer, went to bed, and I got up about 5:30, and I just started working on it again. And I basically finished about an hour ago. It's very involved. It's very involved.
Okay. Well,
You just, Cassie, you're just like, So I've realized that I'm really gonna have to take a day off to do this, because that way, if I need to reach out to one of you or Cole or a tutor, I can.
Yeah, definitely.
They don't work Friday nights or Saturdays, so I can't wait till then to finish.
yeah.
This one kind of, at one point I looked at my wife and I said, I don't think I can make it through this one.
Oh man.
Oh no.
Bad sign for all the rest of us.
Oh,
But
come on, you can't say that.
Yeah, but what helped me was I just stopped. I just went back to everything that we've been doing,
Yeah.
and I just put like open one screen over that side for that insert section.
Yeah.
And I put my update over here, and I just started to just put everything across. Like
Yeah.
literally just move it across, and then logically think like, I'm not inserting, I'm updating. That means the SQL statement will need to change.
Yeah.
In the function I call.
Right.
I can probably just check for the client just the same way, right? And I just start going through the same process. And once I structured my thoughts into, oh, I'm doing the same thing with a little bit of tweak here, it just started to come naturally, right? So don't get confused. Don't try to do everything all at the same time. Just take your time, do them one by one. Remember that you're always working with 3 files: your controller, your model, and the file itself.
Yeah.
Right?
That's the MVC, right?
Yeah, that's the MVC.
It helps me when I can just spend a ton of time at once working on it. I just get in a groove, right? And you just kind of remember where everything is that you're working on. But the problem is when things start not going well, you're just like, oh man, like I need to clear my mind.
Yeah.
And you run out of time. You don't have time to clear your mind.
Yeah, what I had to do to clear my mind, I just kind of look for all my favorite music, up for an hour, and just started to sing.
There we go. Nice.
And then when I was done, I felt a little bit better, and I was like, okay.
There we go.
I'm just overcomplicating this thing. Let's start over. I literally did over the entire vClub update because I started it. It was going all wrong. I deleted it. Start over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay. Well, yeah. Reach out if you guys need help, for sure. Not that I can, but reach out.
Where are you at on this?
I'm working on updating the client, like the client info, the first form.
Yeah. I just try to, I guess so far I've just tried to remember that he showed us how to do everything in a way. We just got to figure it out,
Yeah.
right? He shows us how to do it in the vehicles, and we have to do it with the accounts, or he showed us how to do it with the accounts, and then we have to figure out how to do it with the vehicles.
Yep.
So, I mean, somewhere in our site is already kind of the bones to what we need to do next.
Yeah.
We just got to figure out how to manipulate it, like copy it and manipulate it to do what we need to do. Man, this is a small site. I'm just thinking, man, this must be really intense doing something for a really large site. Like imagine like if you were putting something in, like Amazon.com or some large.
Man, that would be a nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I really like to learn how they do the change management with that, because we're working on our live sites, right? But they're not in there like, hey, let me try this. Oh crap, the whole site just went down. They're working on some copy of the code and then testing it out in an environment before they make changes to the live code. But I think it'd be interesting to see how they actually do that in the real world.
Yeah, because in my where I work, we basically do that, and basically you have your local code, you have your user acceptance code, and then you have the live code. There's 3 environments, and you fix it in your local section, put it to the user acceptance, and then the big bosses check it there.
Yeah.
Say, okay, then you just implement the live version. But how we do it is because we know that the UAT is working, the user acceptance is working, we literally copy that entire server, just put it live. We don't do any changes to live at all. We just basically copy that.
Replace it.
Yeah, we just basically copy it and just overwrite the next live server because it's all virtual. So we just do it that way. So I guess that's basically how these big name companies would do it as well.
And then what do they do to back it up, the live versions?
Yeah, so basically backup is done on the actual UAT, because the UAT is basically the exact copy of the live. So if the live goes down, what you want is to make sure that your UAT is ready to go back up, right? So we always back up the UAT every night. Every night it gets backed up and stored. So that's how we keep all our sites running. Because we have I think we have roughly 50 something sites internally, and we have another 20 externally. And basically I have to manage all of those sites. So yeah, and I'm not the only person working on them. So basically right now we're the only person working on our project. So it feels very overwhelming. Because even for me, it feels overwhelming, because usually I would do the front end design and somebody else does the back end, but we're doing the front end and we're doing the back end. So, so give yourselves a pat on the back, because you're
I wonder what this class would be like if it was kind of like the Java class. Like the first Java class, you worked on specific group assignments, like parts of the website, in this case, together. And then you have individual assignments, so it's like, oh, okay, so you would work on this page, I'd work on this page, so-and-so on this page, right? And such. So you all kind of work on, and then one page together. So you kind of learn here how to do everything as together a group, and then you kind of split off, and then you have your individual assignments. Oh no, that could be intense too, depending on someone else like that to make sure they do.
Yeah, because everybody has to do their job in order for that to work. Now, the reason why they don't do it in this course is because they give you all the examples here to copy.
Yeah.
So you just have to be intuitive to say, all right, what do I change, right?
Right.
And once you figure out what you need to change, then you can get it to work. Because you're basically just doing over what they already showed you.
Yeah. All right. I have no questions yet.
Same here.
So, but I know that I need to get